Welcome back to my channel, fellow gardeners. Today I'm standing here and I'm going to take a cutting of this begonia. Why I'm actually taking a cutting of this begonia, because I have started my collection for my kitchen and my guest bathroom of my plants actually propagating in water. Now, propagating in water gives you that sort of freedom that you don't have to buy all these clay pots and plastic pots. But if you just have a simple glass coffee jar or a jam jar, just put your plant in there and then you decorate. And then the beauty about it, people walk into your kitchen and say, oh my God, so much foliage. And it's all about water propagation. So my name is Alice. I'm taking a cutting and you'll join me. Just there. Today I'm in my kitchen. Now the reason why I'm in my kitchen is basically what I do in my kitchen in order to have greenery is I basically put all my plants in a jar of water or in, well, basically coffee jars and everything. And then I just leave them there, and all I have to do is maybe once every week empty the water, put fresh water, and then put them back up, because they are propagating, they are actually rooting as they're up there. But basically is, I find that in the end, it's less of a hassle having them in water than actually having them in soil, and I will explain why. Now, the thing about having water propagation, as you see, all along here is I propagate my things in waters, and these are little jam jars. This I think I had, I can't remember, but all these little plants like this arrowhead, this is a lovely one, it's a maroon one, and also there's another arrowhead here. This is our jade plant, and it can actually also propagate in water. And here we have the pothos, which we did a vermiculite propagation, but then this time I thought, let me put it in water and have it trailing down in my kitchen. Another plant is, I have my monsterias here. I have my dracaena here. I just went into the garden, chopped it, because I'd like to propagate it. And it's got such beautiful flowers, you know, just the white and the green. I thought this will actually add excitement into my kitchen. So we have that one. And then I have the Chinese money plant. I think this is an agronema. And also I've just thought, let me propagate it because I would like to give it out as a gift. But then just have it in water, and that's a jam jar. And then lastly, what I did is I have my miniature bird's nest. Again, I just uprooted them, and because I want some new babies, is I've actually put them in water, and I'm going to leave it like that until I get more shooting, and then I will actually propagate and give it to friends. Now, what I did outside at the moment is I've been eyeing this cane begonia, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a cane begonia in a propagation vessel? And this is a milk jar, which was recyclable, but I keep them. And so all I need to do with this one, these I will propagate in soil, is actually just have it like that. And again, we have the node here, we have a node here, we have a node there. And for that reason, that's why I have the longer glass. And so what I'm going to do is just put it in here. And that is, again, going to go into my kitchen and add to the foliage. Now, the reason why I think water, growing your plants and also increasing your foliage in your kitchen is, first of all, there's so many reasons, plus reasons, that I can actually think of. First of all, it's easy maintenance, because basically once you do have your jam jar and you stick your plant in, all you really have to do is make sure that you keep changing the water at least once a week, and I'll explain why. But then always make sure that your node is actually submerged in the water, and that's it. So all it is just washing, well, cleaning out the vase, putting fresh water, and that is it. Easy maintenance. Now, the second thing is that we know with water propagation, some plants, which I do actually want to emphasize, is that when you do decide to do a water propagation, do your research and find out if that particular plant is actually suited to water propagation. But once you do actually identify, for me, would be your jade plant, your pothos, your arrowhead, once I know that these are good for water propagation, is I would actually use them, because basically they will root very fast. And second thing, I do understand that plant. Now, again, why I think in my kitchen, it's only our Erica palm which we did propagate, that I have in soil. The rest of it, apart from my little cacti up there, everything is in soil, but all this foliage is in water. Now, why I prefer to have it like that? First of all, this is my kitchen. I love cooking. I'm always in here. But without having soil around, it just makes everything cleaner. It makes it easier, it makes it cleaner, and it's not messy. That's another reason why you can actually decide to go for water propagation as a means of actually expanding your foliage in your house, because in the end it's very simple and it's not messy. Now, the other thing why I do keep all these plants in the house, basically for the foliage, is that first of all, for any person, and I'm speaking to our little gardeners, new gardeners in Kenya, this is such a cost-effective method of actually growing your plant, because all you really need is a vase and water. And once you have your vase, and you can actually, even apart from getting a glass vase, if you don't want to, you could actually use a plastic vase or container and do the same water propagation as I've done here. And then you can spread it into your kitchen, into your dining room. You can put it up on shelves in your bathroom, just to increase the foliage in your house. And it is so simple and cost effective. Now, the other thing why I prefer to actually use this method again and use the clear vessels is basically, as it goes along, I can actually monitor it. I want to see the first rooting coming out. I want to see the progress of that plant. And having it in a glass container and the rooting is happening, I can actually monitor it. And then also on top of it, if you do have a family with small children, get them to do the same, because in the end they will learn something about gardening and about planting once their little baby plant in water starts rooting, and eventually you can actually pot it in soil. The other reason that I do like this, and I do hope that I am encouraging all of you, is basically cost-effective method of gardening, also increases your foliage. But the other thing about this sort of method is basically you really don't make so many mistakes. The only mistake you could do is once you do leave your plant in water and not change the water. Because by not changing the water, what happens is you will get algae sort of building up, and you could get bacteria building up again, and your water goes cloudy, and then it may rot your stem. Other than that, if you do put clean water, and your vessel is clean, and you put clean water every week, first of all, is to ensure that the plant actually does start rooting. It needs that oxygen in the water to be able to actually promote that root production. So basically is that by doing this sort of method, you're first of all oxygenating the plant to let it go into root production. And second thing, it's a much easier method to use. As I mentioned, is that we follow the same principle in every propagation, is even in water propagation, is once you're propagating and having the foliage, is basically all you do is you put it in bright, indirect sun. Because the problem is, if you take a plant like this and you put it on your veranda, on your balcony in a flat, what happens is that the sun will scorch the leaves because it's getting full sun. Second thing is that the water in the container will quickly evaporate and maybe exposing the node where the rooting comes from and dries it up. In that way, you will not have a success story. So with this one, for example, I get my light from here, and this is a south-facing window. And what I'm going to do is just take my little agronemer and I'm going to put it up here, display it. And that's where it's going to actually sit there, root, and eventually I will move it and into soil when I'm ready. So in order for not to make any mistakes, do research the plants that you actually would like to have displayed in your kitchen or in your guest bathroom, and make sure that it does actually work well with water propagation. Second thing is that always make sure that you do follow the same principle as we do in every propagation, is bright indirect sun in a location, not full sun, because you're going to scorch the leaf and you may lose your plant through the node drying out. And second thing is that always when you're doing a water propagation, as in this pothos plant, what I did is yesterday I went and got my pothos, and then we know that the node is here where we've had this branching come off. And again, we have a node there, we have a node there, we have a node there. These little things jutting out are the aerial roots. So what I have to ensure is that once I do submerge this into water, here at that joint where you do have your node is where the growing hormone of the plant is going to happen, and that's where you're going to get your rooting. So what I've done is I've actually put this one back in here, and again here is my plant, again the other pothos, and again we do have a node here. Now what I've done is I've just put it into water like that. Now one of the things when you do this method, make sure that none of the leaves are actually in touch with the water, because once the leaf does get in touch with the water, it'll start rotting and basically you're going to spoil that water. So always make sure that when you do put your plant in water, there is absolutely no contact of the leaf in the water, because once again it is one of those things that will not give you a success story. Now what happens when you do have when you do a water propagation is basically your plant is only living in that water. That's where it's getting its nutrient, its oxygen, and there's no root formation. So at this particular point, I wouldn't see, especially when you're doing a water propagation like this at the moment, there is no point in putting fertilizer in that water. Basically, just leave the plant by itself. It'll start its own rooting, and once it does start its own rooting, it will sort of pick up and mature. And once you do get about 2-3 inches of rooting, this is where you can actually transition it now into a soil medium. And once you do put it in a soil medium, again, do watch our episode on transplant shock. You have to make sure that when you do this transition, your plant doesn't go into a transplant shock, because it is moving into a new environment, into a new soil, something that it's not used to. So you'll get the wilting of the leaves, basically the plant goes into survival mode and shuts down. So do make sure that you do that gradual transition slowly, and again, putting it in indirect sun, indirect light, and making sure the soil is moist, and basically all the things that we've talked about with soil propagation, you give it to that plant, and make sure not in full sun, and keep it hydrated all the time. So fellow gardeners, I hope I've encouraged you, because this is great for beginners, and I really would love to get more beginners on my channel, because it is so interesting. Once you learn this technique, and then you learn later you can go into your soil propagation, you will eventually get so stimulated that every time you see a plant, you just want a cutting. Don't forget to like, to share, subscribe to our channel, press that notification button so you're always informed when we do launch our next episodes. We normally do it on a Thursday. Also, don't forget that we are on Instagram. Do leave your comments there. We do post a lot on Instagram. We are on Facebook, and also do put your comments on the YouTube comments. It's been a bit hectic in January, but I'm back there this afternoon answering every single question that you've given me. Thank you and bye-bye. Happy gardening.